Hey, so guys, Con here. So my most recent build, I decided to do something a little bit different, and I thought I would share with you guys since I've had a few requests about it. And yeah, it's not gonna be a build guide or anything like that, but I will show you guys like what I'm doing. So the build is basically a Bloodmage Crossbow. We're using galvanic shards and plasma burst, and the idea behind it is Bloodmage allows you to apply bleeds with elemental damage. Now, why this is relevant for crossbows is we have this skill called Plasma Blast that has a lot of damage, like a lot of damage. For example, my Plasma Blast currently is level 20 and I have +3 to projectile skills. Level 23 Plasma Blast is 4,492% attack damage. For reference, Hammer of the Gods is probably around like 3,700-ish, something like that. So it is a huge number. Now, if you want to compare one-to-one to Hammer of the Gods has the advantage that it can get exerted by Infernal Cry, and it has also using 200 Message, which have significantly more damage than crossbows. But even that being said, being able to use that skill for bleed makes it a lot better, and that is why I did Blood Mage and not Mercenary or anything like that. Now I want to start with the skills. So what we're using for clear is the Galvanic Shards. Right now I'm using Innervate, Orc, Ricochet, Armor Conservation, Auto Reload. These two I think are pretty important to make the build feel a lot better, smoother when you're clearing maps. Makes it so you almost never have to reload pretty much as long as you're fighting like a group of enemies. So this is something that I don't think I've seen much, and it is very good. Obviously you need damage first. The most important part is first to sort your damage and then play around and see whether or not you can rely on auto reload basically to reload as little as possible. Plasma, so we're gonna use this for map clearing. Plasma Blast is what basically made us choose Blood Mage. So it is a massive, it does massive damage. Pretty much always shocks. Is a channeling skill. Now this is one of the problems with it is it has +2 seconds to total attack time, which means that you cannot make it faster than 2 seconds no matter how much attack speed you have, and in general it's just always gonna take like a pretty significant amount of time to charge up. But when you get it off, it does a lot of damage, and with Blood Mage we get to apply bleeds with the massive hits that we get from that. The advantage with that too is that since you can move while charging the Plasma Blast, you can get take full advantage of the momentum support, which is 40% more damage. So this is probably the best support for this. Next we're using Primal Armaments, again we're doing elemental damage mostly. And Lacerate for the bleed chance, Inevitable Crit, and Scatter Shot. Actually, Scatter Shot should be higher priority, to be honest. Bleed is probably the last thing you will want to add to this. You can do it either way. I guess the last support will be Inevitable Crit, sorry. So Momentum, Plasma Armor, Scatter Shot. Scatter Shot is pretty big because it makes the build play a lot better. So with Scatter Shot, it doesn't fire 3 projectiles in an arc. It just fires the big blast 3 times. I think on average it's just more damage because one, well, you can miss, right? And it's a very long charge up time, and you don't want to miss once you manage to get the charge off. And secondly, since we're using a lightning skill, our damage range is massive. As you can see here, for example, my damage range goes from anywhere from 30k hit to 120k hit, which is, you know, it's like basically 4x damage range. So having multiple hits to one will try to high roll on the damage range and also apply shocks and take advantage of the shocks. This is pretty important. So I think this makes the skill feel a lot better to use. You could always drop it to get more damage with the raw damage support, but I like Scatter Shot a lot. It's a lot more fun to play. Also, that can allow you to basically kill 3 rares with 1 cast when you're doing this, because usually you will only need like 1 blast. So you can blast 1 guy, aim to another one, aim to the 3rd one. But yeah, and that's it for the bleed chance. And Inevitable Crit again, which will always be up pretty much. I do think that these snapshots on the entire Scatter Shots was, for example, if you crit, it snapshots the crit for all 3 hits on the Scatter Shot. So like here, for example, if I roll the crit, all 3 will crit. I am almost certain of it. I will do more. I'll rectify this information if it ends up being wrong, but I've tested it and this is how it works. Emergency reload. That is just here for the premeditation, with premeditation support ingenuity. It has a big cooldown. It is pretty. I think the skill is not that great, but it does help for bursting down bosses in like one blast. So basically, what you want to do is just make sure that whenever you're ready to shoot, you just use it. You can reload at any time, and it will work even if you're already charging. It doesn't cancel anything. It's instant, so you don't have to necessarily use it to actually reload your crossbow. And almost never use it for that. Also, the other cases where I would use it is using galvanic shards, and when you're clearing, you see like a rare, maybe a tanky red that you don't want to blast for, then you can just auto reload to get an extra bit of damage to try to burst it down without having to blast. The Thunder, we're gonna use that for our clear, to help our clear with lightning mastery, long shot, lightning fusion, elemental focus. You can do anything really. You can also do the Herald of Ice stuff. I'm not doing it because, again, I've played 2 Herald of Ice characters. I don't think it's very interesting to just put Herald of Ice chaining on every single build, especially since it's very likely gonna be gone next patch. So now I'm just using Herald of Thunder. So, and that's it. And that helps a lot with clear. We're already shocking as much as possible because we're using Innovate on Galvanic Shards. We're also using Overwhelming Presence to help with that. So you should be able to get that like going. Wind Dancer, obviously, because you're gonna want to get evasion. That is a problem with crossbows. You cannot use a shield, and if you cannot use a shield, you have to get as much evasion as possible. My character right now doesn't have that much, like 4700, like for 58% chance to evade. I would like more. If it were up to me, I would obviously have evasion boots, for example, right here, and pre-evasion helmet. But yeah, you want to get as much evasion as possible. For example, flat evasion on rings is very good. Get that, percent evasion on neck, things like this. And then Wind Dancer on top that we're gonna link with Blind, Magnified Effect, and then just a normal Cannibalism and Precision. Cannibalism is very, very important because it gives you your life recovery while mapping. And the main reason it's important is that it allows you to overflow your life a lot easier. So I'm gonna go back on that when I talk more about the Ascendancy in particular, but yeah. Overwhelming Presence, Stun Threshold, Element Threshold, very good. Shock consistency while mapping, same shock and stun consistency, well actually shock and stun consistency while mapping, so you can reload with auto reload and proc Innovate. And on bosses, well, same thing, self-explanatory. And then the last skills that you're gonna use are gonna be Temp Chain. Temp Chain is extremely good. It makes your bleed last longer. It makes your any other debuffs last longer, also slows by a lot. And you're gonna link that to persistence so that it lasts long, the curse lasts longer. Arcane tempo for cast speed, encumbrance to again increase the potency of the slows from the curse, and heighten curse against curse effect. So you're only gonna use that for bosses pretty much, where you're gonna load a big blast, and then it will help your bleeds to do more damage. It is straight like more multiplier basically on your bleed damage. Winter we use for once we start getting more into getting higher level and we can go crit. Eye of Winter is very, very powerful. It applies critical weakness, which stacks to 10 stacks, and for each stack you get plus 1% base crit chance. And it is very, very important because as we play Bloodmage, we want to crit. Crit is very important. That's where we get a lot of crit damage from the Ascendancy, from Gore Spike. So you wanna. That's where we get a lot of your damage. And thanks to Eye of Winter, for example, like we say, for example, the crossbow that I have right now has 9.57% crit chance. You can get it to, I think, 10%. And Eye of Winter alone would basically double your crit chance, which is pretty massive. And if we look at my current character, what my crit chance on Plasma Blast with my current setup, I'm at 43%. So I'm not quite crit capped. I would need a bit more. Basically, you need 50% crit chance on your Plasma Blast to be able to cap with Eye of Winter, most part. And we're gonna link it with Unleash, Rupture. This is pretty nice to aggravate the bleeds whenever you get a heavy stun, because after every blast you're gonna want to cast Eye of Winter. Deceleration, because you want it to be on top of the boss for as long as possible, so that it hits as much as possible. And Wild Charge is in there just because you know, extra proj every now and then is good. And lastly, we use Bone Storm. Now, Bone Storm is very, very strong for this because, as you know, crossbows damage range are massive. They have a lot of variance, again, like I explained earlier. And the damage is pretty low. The damage is pretty low on crossbows. And this gives us a ton of flat. And that part is pretty important, so I'm going to explain a bit more. Bonestorm works like you're going to channel, and every time you shoot, it will lodge spikes onto the target. And for each spike that lodges, you get 1 stack, and each stack will get consumed every time an attack hits to give this amount of flat damage. Sorry, this amount. So it is 400 to 9, and with my current setup, I managed to get like +9 levels to it. So my Bonestorm is level 28, and that gives me 494 742 physical damage. For reference, it is flat damage, and for reference, my weapon is 61 to 246. So you can see how powerful this is. Now, the reason how we managed to get this many levels on it is that we're gonna have a weapon swap with Widow Hail and a +2 projectile skills quiver, and then you will spec into the Master Fletching nose here, all the quiver effect that will just apply to your Bonestorm. So basically you just have a weapon swap where you spec into all the int that you need for this to be able to use the gem, and the quiver effect to get additional levels. That's how we make it go from level 19 to level 28. Which is gonna bring me to the tree. I'm gonna show you real quick. So my tree, the tree right now could be doing things differently. This is what I ended up with. I kind of just winged it and just went straight to do a Merc, because you actually have to be here. You can't really stay up there. There's really nothing going on in the witch area, so you just go straight to the monk starting area here, which has a lot of good stuff. These nodes here, you got a bunch of skill speed, damage will create extra elemental damage, which all will contribute to bleeds, because again, with Blood Mage, any elemental damage will give us will contribute to bleeds. And we get all the crit damage that we can get. So what you're gonna want to do is the red lines you see here is the weapon set skills for my crossbow when I shoot. There's gonna be the bleed nodes here, there's some of the 200 nodes here, the bleed nodes here. This node here is also on the crossbow set because you do not want this when you use Eye of Winter, for example. And then this stuff here is pretty good, like stun build up, all this is useful. It is, the tree is, as good as we can make it probably if you're a Blood Mage trying to play crossbows. Yeah, you just travel through Monk, go as soon as possible down here so we can get all the crit stuff here, the reload speed, some of the crossbow damage, and chance to not consume balls here, which is pretty nice with the ammunition. What is it? That's what ammo conservation. So you get basically 40% chance to not consume balls plus auto reload, and this is how the map clear becomes a lot smoother. We take that lightning rod early on. You're basically gonna want this as soon as possible because, again, as I showcased earlier, the damage range is massive, especially lightning one. The lightning one is maybe it's like 6x, yeah, something like that, 7x. So it is massive, and you want to get that till you go crit. And crit is something that we'll do on you once you get your 4th ascendancy node around level 90. I'd say around level 90 you'd have sufficient crit chance from the tree that you will be able to do that. Okay, so we go down here. First you get lightning rod, very good early on before you can go fully crit. And then all the pen here, because you do need a certain amount, at least some pen, because you're not gonna be able to use conductivity because you want to use stem chain. So these nodes here are pretty good regardless. You get how much pen, like around 40-ish pen total. Yeah, 42 lightning pen, which is probably enough. You could also get some more from jewels, but yeah. But that's what the tree looks like. And the second tree will be the one that we use with Widow Hail and the quiver, and that one only has reduced splash speed here for Winter, as well as the quiver effect here, like I said, and int, because you will need int, a lot more int to be able to use Bonestorm high level. But that's it for the tree. The ascendancy nodes, not really a choice. You will not ascend the first lab. You will basically do not ascend. Do not click any of the nodes until you get Plasma Blast. And once you get Plasma Blast, you go straight to Blood Barbs, which is what allows you to bleed with it. And then the third point will be Grasping Wounds. Defense, because Gore Spike, really, you cannot do it early. You need levels to be able to click crit nodes. And then once you get your last lab, your 4th lab is Gore Spike. And basically you will want to just take everything, like this area, outside the crit probably. Get the Prognos here, then go straight down there to the reload speed. Bit stuff for you want it for Plasma Blast, and then yeah, the lightning, lucky lightning hits here, then go into the crit. That's pretty much how the tree is gonna look like. Now I'll explain again, like I was saying, like Bloodmage is very strong in that setup because you Gore Spike scales with each point of life that you have currently, and that will include your overflowed life. So for example, right now I have 2.2k life, let's say, which means I would have like 6.4k overflowed life, and this is the life that will be taken into account when calculating the damage you get from Gore Spike. So it is very, very powerful. Life Remnants also proc on crit, which is why once you get enough sufficient crit chance, you will have an absurd amount of life remnants just dropping as you map. And while bossing, it's not obviously that consistent because you don't hit frequently enough. But it is very, very strong. You get 25% on kill, and you get extra remnants from critting it on each target, I'm pretty sure. You will pretty much always be overflowed on life, doubling your life pool at all times, and doubling the benefits from Gore Spike. The main thing, again, like I said, is Blood Barbs. Blood Barbs, again, allow you any elemental damage to allow to bleed, which means you don't really care what type of damage you have. Ideally, you want lightning, but any elemental damage will contribute to the damage. For example, I'll give you an example, this ring here. That's 34 to 49 fire damage to attacks, gives me an absurd amount of damage. This is like 30% more damage from just that one ring. That one flat roll. So flat damage rolls are extremely important, which brings me to the gear. But for the gear, well, I mean, you know, there's two options you can do. Right now, I am not running Edzir's Disdain, but I was running it for a while until I decided to swap to Bonestone for more damage. But you can do it the same way you do pretty much for a lot of the builds that you play. You use Green Fist instead of Bonestone, for example, if you want more defense, or you could also even drop Temp Chain, to be honest. Temp Chain, I think, is only necessary for Pinnacle bossing. That being said, I would not... Yeah, it's only necessary for Pinnacle bossing, so you could just drop Temp Chain, use Green Fist, use Edzir's Disdain on your helmet slot, and that will give you an extra... I don't know... 3k yes, maybe to work with. Maybe more 4k. So this is pretty strong. Obviously Invictus, the best, you want as much life as possible, so you want to use an Invictus with life and probably res. Attributes also kind of work. I'm using Hand of Wisdom in action, so currently you don't have to use it. I don't think this is that much better than rare gloves, than good rare gloves. Unless you go pretty hard on the attribute stacking side of things, so there's multiple ways to do it. I think it's just an easy way to... Since you already want int for Green Fist, if you're using Edzir's Disdain, for example, I would use Hoa just because you want the int for Green Fist. If you're not using Edzir's Disdain, you could just use rare gloves, it's completely fine. Yeah, Ingenuity, obviously, like, yeah. What you want from gear is just basically strength. Ideally, you want strength and life on every item, because more life means more crit damage, means more damage. You want flat. If you're using Hoa, obviously you're gonna want int. Dexterity, not important, you just want enough for your accuracy and attributes and requirements, and that's about it. And then yeah, rest will be strength, life, flat damage, ideally lightning. But any flat rolls are good. Like I showed earlier, this is like 30% more damage. It's probably similar damage to what Hoa gives me currently at 140 int. Yeah, more Ingenuity. You don't have to use Ingenuity again. It's just that Ingenuity is the best because makes you get more damage from your rings. You would need Spirit somewhere. Again, depending on your gear, you could have it on your Invictus, or the way I'm doing it right now is I have it on my neck. You do not need that much, you just need a tiny bit more. Depends if you're using Green Fist or not. If you're using Green Fist, you need 50 Spirit. If you're not using Green Fist, you can do with not less, because for example, currently I do not. You could also just have enough accuracy that you don't need precision. If you don't need precision, you pretty much don't need that. So it basically depends what your setup looks like, but this is it. And the main important thing, the hardest part about the gear on the build is the crossbow. The crossbow needs to have crit chance. It is non-negotiable. Crossbow with no crit chance is not usable. You want as much as possible. And then, well, level 2 projectile skills actually gives a ton of damage. I have gotten a lot of crossbows with even like 400 damage top end, but they were not better than the one I'm using currently because this one has high crit, +3 plus skills, and there's some random damage on it. But ideally you would want, the perfect crossbow would be pure fizz, triple fizz prefixes with very high crit chance, level 2 projectile skills, and then, well, attack speed is nice, but it's not really mandatory or anything. So these are the main stats I would say that you would want to look for the thing. But yeah, overall, I think this is I want to try something different. I've always wanted to play a Blood Mage with taking advantage of Blood Barbs, because I think it's a really cool ascendancy node, and there was a lot of things you could do with this. Notably, for example, I think the other thing that I would do with Blood Mage would be Perfect Strike. That works perfectly, fits perfectly with Blood Mage. But I decided that I didn't want to play maces again, so we ended up on a crossbow Blood Mage. And well, as funky as it sounds, it actually works pretty well. Galvanic Charge is very good clear, even without the Herald chaining stuff. So I think this build has a pretty top tier clear actually, considering if we're talking non-heralds. And then for single target, it is a very good single target. I would say that it is not the best for pinnacle bossing, because pinnacle bosses, tier 4 pinnacle bosses will are very tanky and they don't let you set up as much. And by setup, I'll show you exactly like what it looks like. If you want to do optimal damage, basically you start the boss by using Bone Storm to apply the Bone Storm, and then you Iron Winter to get your crit up. Then you swap Blast with Emergency Reload, and after the 3 blasts you can Temporal Chain, and then you go again. Bone Storm again, Iron Winter, all that stuff. That being said, for map bosses, for example, even 82, even tier 18 map bosses with difficulty 4 will die in 1 blast if you set up everything correctly. And that is with my current weapon. So like if you have better gear, you will probably not even need to set up anything. I was doing it without any Bone Storm setup, and I was also killing bosses in pretty much two blasts. One that stuns them, and then another one that finishes them off. Well, most of them would also just die from the bleed. Like you don't necessarily need to even blast a second time. Like the bleed will finish the job most of the time. So I think this is a very fun build to play. The playstyle is nice. The bossing against pinnacles is pretty wonky though, so I would not recommend playing this. If you wanna just farm pinnacle bosses, this is not the build. I don't think so. They would need to do some changes with all the channeling stuff, because you can get stunned out of your plasma blast and then you have to channel again, and there's a lot of stuff to set up to do the proper damage. Like you would technically, this build has the damage to do it, but mechanically it is pretty bad. Like something like Zesh, a Zesh that doesn't let you really cast much is a big problem. I think it does fine on bosses with better uptime, on pinnacles better uptime, but I still would not recommend playing that. You know, just play something that doesn't require so much setup. And if you really want to though, if you would level this, I would level this with grenades. I will link a plan that Waggle has, for example, where he tested a bunch of leveling stuff, and that's what I used, and it was pretty decent. So I'll just link that in the description for the type of what your leveling setup should be if you want to level with crossbows. But make sure you do that on the second character. Do not leak start this. Do not fresh start this. Do not. But yeah, that's all I have to say. If you have more questions about the build, I'll be happy to answer in my stream or something like that. I will try to make a guide on actual ASAP. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah, Bloodmage Crossbows, actually pretty good and very fun. Again.